Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you had an amazing weekend as we head into a very interesting week for all of us. But the NFL delivered. The NBA had some great stories. College football went well for me. My Miami Hurricanes are still undefeated, but we're going to start with the Cowboys as we must because wow, wow, another Cowboys collapse. Um, they're out of it. The season is over. They're not a good enough team to climb out of this hole, and they are a dumpster fire. It's unfortunate because personally for me, I don't have any interest in the Cowboys being bad. As a professional, it's very good for me for the Cowboys to be good, in fact, because they generally have the best ratings. They are the most interesting team to talk about. They have stars. Jerry gives us quotes. It's for the media and for all of people that are interested in interesting things. The Cowboys are number one, but the winning part has not really matched as of late. And this season, particularly, the NFC is so good. I mean, 3 teams from the NFC North alone are likely going to make the playoffs. So it's going to get very tight when we're talking about what wild card teams have an opportunity to get in. And the Cowboys would only be fighting for a wild card spot at this point. But again, as I've been saying about the Cowboys and Jerry Jones this year, this was particularly predictable. One, because they did not make moves in the offseason to improve the roster. Two, they are obviously dealing with injuries. So is everybody else. You've got to find ways to get depth. You've got to find ways to overcome that. You also had Mike McCarthy coming into this season on an expiring contract. Why does that matter? When you have guys who are looking to survive as opposed to having the ability to thrive, you coach and you move and you make decisions differently than you would if you knew that you had a runway. Now, I'm not really blaming this on Mike McCarthy, but that's just a human mentality. When you know the clock is ticking and you have to win right now, as opposed to making decisions that are for the longevity of the team, you put them in a bad situation. Obviously, we're constantly talking about his job. We're constantly asking Jerry about his job. And then you also had the element of the offseason where the whole conversation was about Dak Prescott's contract and CeeDee Lamb's contract. They have enormous contracts now, and the two of them are both injured going into this week. We'll find out today or tomorrow how injured they in fact are. But the one thing that the Dallas Cowboys did well this year was the connection between Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. So if you remove that element, truly, what do the Cowboys do well? They can't run the ball. They can't stop the run. They can't really score points. They can't stop the other team from scoring. They don't have a dynamic offense. They are missing some of their best talent. They're just not in a good place as an organization. They'll likely let Mike McCarthy go at the end of the year. Dak is obviously going to be there in perpetuity because of this contract. And I think that Jerry Jones and the Cowboys were very arrogant about what they thought they had in the building based off of last year. They lost a lot of pieces from last year's roster. And I think that last year was the crown jewel of Jerry Jones over the past, say, 10 years when we're talking about what they put together and the talent that they had on the field. They had 9 All Pros. Dak Prescott had the best year of his career. Regular season, of course, is what I'm talking about. He was an MVP finalist. Mike McCarthy is validated in his offense. Their defense is taking the ball away, looking spectacular. Get to the postseason, disappointment in week 1. So this year, it feels like Jerry was like, all right, I did my best that I can do, and you guys are just going to have to figure it out with what we have. And obviously, we have to sign CeeDee and we have to sign Dak, but let's hold that off until the very beginning of the season, because that way we can have something to be in the headlines for all offseason. Rather than signing them earlier before other contracts got done, you probably would have saved some money with Dak. You might have saved some money with CeeDee. You would have had some room to move around, maybe sign a Derrick Henry or go out and get someone else that fits your scheme better, since Derrick Henry is just not what the Cowboys do. At the end of the day, I think this is all by Jerry's design. He wants all the credit, but if you're the one who gets all the credit, you also have to take all the blame. And I don't think that this roster is good enough. I don't think he put anybody in a position for winning football throughout the offseason, whether it be from moves or lack of moves for what was presented at the beginning of the year from the run game. Obviously, they did not shore up the run defense, which has been an issue for a while. And the theme with Jerry when it comes to coaching, and I like Mike McCarthy a lot. I think Mike McCarthy is a really good coach. He has won a lot of games in this league. They have won 12 games the last 3 years up until this year. That's very hard to do. But he doesn't ever want coaches that will get the credit over him. It has to be about Jerry, whether it be the roster, whether it be the headlines, whether it be the conversation in the media. And I think when you're looking at the totality of what the Cowboys have been over all of these years, it kind of all tracks the same. And it's a little sad this year. I feel sad about the Cowboys this year because while people think I'm a Cowboys hater and I take pleasure in this, I certainly do not. And again, my mother is a Cowboys fan, so she's not a happy camper when this is going on either. And I like for the Cowboys to be competitive. I say this all the time. I don't like watching bad football. I do not enjoy it. It is not fun for me. I don't know why anyone thinks that. Like, oh, I'm not that much of a fan that I'm or a hater that I want to watch bad football. That's a real level of hate that I haven't even reached yet. So it just feels like bleh. It feels like it was a lot of conversation in the offseason. What's CD going to be? What Dak's going to be? What Dak deserves? What CD deserves? What Micah's going to get? What are the expectations for this team based off of last year? And it's all just kind of, and now you have injuries to your two best players on offense. It just feels like they're going nowhere. And pretty soon, in a few weeks, we are not even going to be talking about them because they're going to be so far out of it. And that's really unfortunate. So over to the Saints. The Saints have fired Dennis Allen after losing their 7th straight game. This is the first midseason firing for the Saints since the Benson family purchased the team in 1985. And while Dennis Allen, I don't believe, is a good head coach, his record would indicate that he's not. You got to put a little bit of this on Derek Carr. And I like Derek Carr. I think he has moments that convince you that he is really good. And I think he might just be okay. He's 74-91 as a career record. His 91 losses tied for the most through 11 seasons in NFL history. He's tied with Archie Manning. He's only had 3 seasons with a winning record. And the Saints season started so well that once again, we all got convinced. Saints. I mean, we were talking about the Saints could potentially go to the Super Bowl. We got to put some respect on the Saints. Saints are doing crazy things. They haven't won a game since. And now the head coach is fired. And I understand that Carr was injured, but it just seems like it's the same story every time with Derek Carr. And certainly with Dennis Allen, because Dennis Allen has been fired twice now with Derek Carr as his coach. I think the Saints are going to look really different next year. They're really in a tough spot as an organization. The salary cap situation is bad. Now you have to find a new head coach. It's unfortunate because for so long with Sean Payton, the Saints were not only competitive and interesting, they had great talent, they were fun to watch, a great dynamic offense, interesting pieces on defense, and now the Saints are kind of going to be overlooked again. And there's a lot of people talking about Derek Carr out there. Michael Thomas is tweeting about Derek Carr. The players are talking about, wanting to get in at quarterback. It's a really rough situation. And Derek Carr just has this kind of ability where he will just pop out and have a game. And you're like, wow, Derek Carr, he's back. It's that kind of MVP year. And then this is why I'm very careful about mentioning people being in the MVP race. And it's coming to me right now as I'm talking. So you have to bear with me. When we do this, we play this little game of he was in the MVP race. He was an MVP finalist. He wasn't the MVP, but we almost give this nod to being an MVP finalist that carries over in expectations for years and years to come. Because you remember when Derek Carr was on that MVP run, playing at an MVP level has done so much work for him. We did this with Carson Wentz. We've kind of done this with Jalen Hurts. We're doing it with Dak Prescott. And it's this theme that follows guys, and it's like you didn't actually win the MVP. So maybe we should stop saying that because it's reinforcing this idea that every year they're going to be able to play at an MVP level, because winning an MVP in the NFL is a massive deal. Look at Lamar Jackson. He's won 2 MVPs. He looks like an MVP again this year. Patrick Mahomes. He's won MVPs in this league. Like when you win an MVP, you look like an MVP. So I think we maybe should stop saying that as well. But the situation with the Saints and the players and the coach and Derek Carr is looking spicy, and I think we probably won't be talking about the Saints for a while. So the Daniel Jones era is over. This is what happens when you overreact to one season of success. They beat the Vikings in 2022 in the wild card, and then proceeded to lose the next game 38-7 to the Eagles. He was then rewarded with a 4-year, $160 million deal, $92 million guaranteed. The Giants are awful. The Giants are once again awful. And it's disappointing because they were once considered one of the best organizations. And since winning the Super Bowl in 2011, they are the fourth most losing franchise. Only the Jags, Browns, and the Jets have a worse record. The Jags, Browns, and Jets are notoriously dysfunctional and bad teams. And the Giants are in that company now, which is crazy to think about. I mean, this is an organization that took down Tom Brady twice in the dynasty, twice. They are a cornerstone franchise in the NFL. And here they are looking awful once again. I don't know what to do with the Giants. I like Dable a lot. I don't know if he's there next year, which is not fair or correct, but he's going to get hired instantly. But this situation, to me, what's going on with the Giants is an overreaction to moderately good quarterback play. The panic and overreaction to trying to find a quarterback is what has led them to being where they are right now. Daniel Jones was not good. He was overdrafted. The reaction in the draft was completely warranted. He wasn't good at all until Dable got there. They had one season, one kind of winning season where they snuck in the playoffs. I will give you a wild card win. A playoff win is a playoff win. But that does not mean that you need to overreact to the playoff win. Because now look at you. Look at you now. It's awful. And I think I'm just going down the teams that we're not going to have to talk about for the rest of the year today, because that's where they're going to be. A team that we are going to keep talking about, though, is the Lions. The Lions beat the Packers 24-14. I thought this would be a statement win for the Detroit Lions, and it turns out that it was. They are clearly 1A to the Chiefs, who I think will remain undefeated after tonight. They beat a really good team, a big win in the division. They put their foot on the neck of the NFC, and Goff should be in the MVP conversation with Mahomes and Lamar and Josh Allen. The Lions have done something that me, as a football nerd, as an organization nerd, as a functioning growth nerd, like coming off of an NFC championship where you played well, and then you come back next year and you get better and you improve and you continue off of that momentum. That is what I'd like to see. Prove me wrong, right? I wasn't sure about Dan Campbell. Really wasn't sure about Dan Campbell. Lions fans like to remind me of a clip from The Herd from many years ago where I said the Lions fans deserve better. But what I did always say about Dan Campbell is he finds ways to create an energy, and he was building a culture. Even when they were losing, they had a little something about them. And I love that win. I love the momentum that they have right now. They are certainly the best team in the NFC. I think they are head and shoulders above everyone else. And I'm very excited to see them in the postseason. And I'm going to give Goff lots more flowers later in the week. Okay, finally, we need to revisit my thoughts on bringing back violence. This Joel Embiid story is so interesting to me. So Joel Embiid confronted a reporter that put this quote in his piece about Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid consistently points to the birth of his son, Arthur, and the major inflection point in his career. He often says that he wants to be great and leave a legacy for the boy he named after his little brother, who died in an automobile accident when Embiid was in his first year as a 76er. Well, in order to be great at your job, you have to first show up for work. Embiid has been great at just the opposite. Now in his 11th season, he has consistently been in poor condition. Now, Embiid apparently confronted the reporter, shoved him, and, there's all these stories about what actually went down. They're looking into it. But this is my thing about violence. Now, I'm being a little tongue in cheek here, but what other reaction was Joel Embiid supposed to have to this? Was he supposed to be classy and kindly say to this reporter, "Can you keep my brother who is no longer here with us and my son's name out of your mouth, please?" Media members sometimes get very emotional because they can be fans sometimes. I mean, obviously, when you get into sports, when you get into media, you usually are a fan of whatever it is that you're covering, whether it be politics, whether it be news, whether it be entertainment, and certainly sports. I mean, I played sports growing up. I was a fan growing up. I love sports. But you have to separate that when you're talking about players. And why would you write this? Did this sound like a bar in your head? Like, oh, well, you want to achieve this, but first you got to be great at your job. First of all, Embiid is great at his job. He is great at playing basketball. Is he the greatest? Has he accomplished everything that he has set out to do, everything that the Sixers expect of him or want of him? No, but he is unequivocally a great player. Are there things that we can be critical of? Yes, I have been critical of the same things that this reporter is critical of. Where I would draw the line is I don't need to bring up that his brother who died and his son who's named after his brother is a motivating factor for why he should be in better shape. You don't need to make that stretch, okay? And you should expect a reaction like that from Joel Embiid. You should expect that. Why wouldn't you expect that? And that is my point about when people behave certain ways, when Yankees fans are pulling on Mookie Betts' arm in the World Series, when fans are walking up to Russell Westbrook, when reporters are writing things about your brother who has died and your son who you named after him. Like when people are doing things like this, in their brains, they don't consider violence. They don't consider a reaction of physicality, which is why they do it, because they know the worst that's going to happen is they can sue, right? Okay, if this player does react in a way that for some might seem appropriate, for others it might not, but in an emotional moment where you are physically touching me, Mookie Betts, etc., and I react with a physical reaction as a player, I'm the one who's going to get sued. I'm the one that's going to suffer. My team's going to suffer. I'm not going to finish the game. And what's going to happen to you? You're going to be kind of famous and you can probably sue the team or sue me. When you write something like this, you're not considering that this player may be so upset that you're talking about his dead brother and his son that he named after his brother and saying that he need, in order to honor that legacy, you need to be in better shape to start the season. Just write something else. Just write something else. And I don't defend the media often, and when I do, it's very specific because we are here as vessels for fans. That's it. Like, we're the go-between between fans and players and organizations. And is it necessary? Yes. There's news stations for a reason. There's entertainment coverage for a reason. There's red carpets for a reason. There are media scrums for a reason. There are shows. Everything happens for a reason. It's because fans want content and coverage of the teams and the players. That's never going away. But there has to be a respect factor for human beings. And I get it. right? Nobody gives a fuck about anybody anymore. Everything is anarchy, and maybe the world is ending. So fuck it. But just ease up on the talking about people's families, because you are going to see this player, and he may not appreciate it. And clearly Joel Embiid didn't. And I can't say that I blame him, because what are you doing? What are you doing? Anyway, thanks for hanging out with us today, guys. Really appreciate it. Make sure that you subscribe and like and share and comment. And I have some fun stuff coming up on Thursday, because we are midway through the NFL season. So we are going to give out a couple little awards. We're going to see who is hitting the mark and who is not in fact hitting the mark. Hope you guys have a great week. Good luck to all of us. And I'll catch you guys later.